Harry Potter, Journey to Godhood. Synopsis. Follow Alaric in his journey to be the strongest wizard out there by hook or by crook. This is the story of a guy who went to a different world to get power and to find new relationships in his life. Read how he fights off Voldemort in process becoming the leader of new generation of wizards and builds up his new life with his new friends, family, and wife. A story of a wizard using his wisdom and power to ascend to the pinnacle of the world, who will do anything to protect his new family. This is a little slow-paced and also somewhat slice-of-life story, so keep that in mind, that focuses more on Alaric's relationship. There will be heavy changes to the original plot, so be aware, and also MC becomes overpowered rather quickly as the story moves forward, and he won't hesitate to take some drastic measures if necessary, so he won't have a moral compass. Chapter 1, Wool's Orphanage. Wool's Orphanage, a long-standing orphanage in London. It was a square building surrounded by high railings, appearing worn out on the outside but remarkably clean and tidy on the inside. The establishment's founding date was lost to history, and despite its considerable age, it lacked notable achievements. No famous merchants, politicians, or scholars had emerged from here, and it struggled to attract donations or well-intentioned adopters. This was an ordinary, dilapidated, and almost bankrupt orphanage, managed by Mrs. Cole, an ordinary elderly woman. However, in a hidden society inaccessible to ordinary people, this orphanage held an extraordinary reputation that was destined to become even more prominent from this day forward. On this day, June 11, 1991, the orphanage welcomed a special guest. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking reached Mrs. Cole's ears. She set aside her knitting in the rocking chair and hurriedly made her way to the door. On such a rainy day, who would visit such an old orphanage, she wondered, grabbing a black, old umbrella from the rack by the door and opening it as she approached. Standing at the door was an old man, tall and thin, with silver hair and a silver beard that reached his waist. Over his robe, he wore a purple cloak and held a dirty black umbrella. His robe was soaked, and droplets covered his half-moon-shaped glasses. Mrs. Cole, 60 years old, felt that this man was much older than her. Strangely, though, despite looking old enough to be her father, he seemed more energetic, his bright blue eyes full of life. "Oh, come on in," Mrs. Cole fumbled with a large key from her keychain, struggling to open the somewhat rusted gate of the orphanage. "The weather has been terrible lately, and the children's clothes have been left out for 2 days without drying." "That's true," the old man agreed, following Mrs. Cole through the orphanage's main entrance. He looked around, a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. "Nothing has changed here, it's still so neat," he sighed. "Of course," Mrs. Cole proudly handed a clean towel to the wet old man, saying, "We've always been like this. While we may not provide affluent living conditions, we do our best to give the children a good living environment, just as Mrs. Cole did. Unfortunately, not many people come to help us, and not many come to help these poor little ones." As she spoke, the somewhat grumbling old woman couldn't help but complain. "Have you been here before? I don't seem to remember you," she asked curiously. "Oh, that was many years ago," the old man recalled. "Around 57, or 58 years ago. I can't quite remember. Mrs. Cole received me back then and provided me with significant help." "Then you must be over 80 years old?" Mrs. Cole asked casually while preparing tea for the guest. "Believe me, I'm older than you imagine." The old man finally dried his beard and hair with the towel, then engaged in conversation with the somewhat lonely old woman. After a while, the satisfied chatterbox of an old woman remembered the main reason for their meeting. "So, Mr. Oh, how rude of me, I forgot to ask for your name." "I am Albus." "Albus Dumbledore," the old man answered. "I am the headmaster of a wizarding school, and I am here to find a boy named Alaric." "Oh, Alaric." When mentioning this name, the murky eyes of the old woman seemed to light up. "Little Alaric is our pride and joy. There hasn't been a child as intelligent and sensible as him. I've watched him grow up. I've seen all sorts of mischievous and troublesome poor children, you know, it's my profession, but I've never seen such a smart and sensible little boy. Mrs. Cole's face revealed immense pride and joy, and she couldn't help but complain a little. Little Alaric could speak at the age of 1. Since then, he has never cried or made a fuss, whether hungry or bullied by older children. He always faces difficulties on his own. Oh, he's such a resilient child. Mrs. Cole refilled Dumbledore's tea and continued, this child loves reading. He started reading when he learned to recognize words, newspapers, magazines, dictionaries, novels, he reads everything. His mind is sharp, and he learns quickly. He could fluently read newspapers at the age of 3. As if introducing her own proud grandson, the old woman spent a long time describing the 10-year-old named Alaric. Dumbledore patiently listened, gradually forming a basic impression of the child: intelligent, sensible, eager to learn, hard-working, kind, and so on. Although he knew there might be some subjective bias from the old woman, the overall impression was still near perfection. Chapter 2, Visitor. Then, Dumbledore carefully chose his words, asking Mrs. Cole, has anything strange or unusual happened to this child? Strange things. Upon hearing this term, the smile on the old lady's face instantly disappeared, and she criticized sharply. Little Alaric has never experienced anything strange. He is a true good boy, unfortunately encountering such an unfortunate fate. A righteous gentleman would never doubt such a good child. Yes, I didn't doubt him. I just want to have a comprehensive understanding of him. Even Dumbledore, a great wizard and headmaster, couldn't handle the almost angered old lady at this moment. It took him quite a while to convince her that he had no malicious intent. How is that possible, he thought, the acceptance quill clearly wrote his name in the book of admittance, proving that he is not a muggle or squib, indeed possessing magical talent. Such magical talent often causes various accidents before young wizards learn to control magic, but how could Mrs. Cole, as the administrator, not notice anything? Is it because his talent is too low, or? Thinking of this, he recalled that person and buried the questions and thoughts deep in his heart. Well then. As the conversation concluded, Dumbledore finally made his request. As the headmaster of Hogwarts School, I would like to admit Alaric as a student in our school. I came here to deliver his acceptance letter and would like to meet him. Oh, another school's acceptance letter. I knew our little Alaric would always be recognized. Mrs. Cole responded cheerfully. But currently, only you, as the headmaster, have come personally. It's up to him to decide. Keep in mind, even Eton College sent him an acceptance letter. Saying this, Mrs. Cole got up from her chair. I'll take you to his room. He should be studying right now. With that, she led Dumbledore up the stairs. In the Wolves orphanage, Alaric was a legend. When he was only a few months old, Mrs. Cole, who was going out to get the newspaper, found him at the orphanage's door. At that time, he was wrapped in an adult's clothes, and the only thing proving his identity was a plastic card with the words Alaric. From a very young age, Alaric showed his genius. Whether it was learning to speak, walk, or read, he was much faster than his peers. And he was quite sensible, never causing adults any worry. Although Alaric's looks stood out in the orphanage, his maturity and wisdom beyond his age made him easily become the boss of the children there. Whether older or younger, all the children admired him. Since Alaric was 5 years old, the caregivers at Wolves Orphanage felt that their workload had decreased significantly. Under Alaric's management, the children gradually became obedient and responsible. Some older children even willingly helped with household chores. Moreover, in the nearby elementary school, Alaric was a unique genius. In the classroom, no problem could stump him. Teachers and principals praised him, and even after graduating from elementary school, he received an acceptance letter from the prestigious Eton College. But no one knew that this famous genius was actually a reincarnator from another world. In his previous life, Alaric was a student in Eldritch University, with a middle-class background. His university was among the top 10 in the country. His major was in the highly popular field of computer. Not only was he considered a winner in life, but he also ranked among the upper echelon of his peers. Apart from that, Alaric was a bit of an otaku, well versed in various anime and movie genres. Before the transmigration, he took advantage of holiday to watch Avengers Endgame. Due to the circumstances of being a loner, he was struck by lightning on the way back to school, and the unfortunate Alaric disappeared without a trace, becoming a momentary urban legend. It was this accident that led to his transmigration. In reality, he wasn't struck dead by lightning. At that time, Alaric only saw a flash of lightning, and a thunderbolt abruptly passed in front of him, splitting the air open with a black crack. Everything, including air, sand, and himself, was sucked into this crack. Only after that did he realize that this was a space rift. And he fell from this opening into an endless and fantastical space. This chaotic space was filled with strange and dangerous currents everywhere. Occasionally, similar cracks appeared suddenly. These cracks only existed for an instant before disappearing, but there was always something sprayed out from the openings. Various living and non-living entities, from planets to dust. Then, they were engulfed by the dangerous currents and disappeared without a trace. In Alaric's view, this space should be the superdimensional channel connecting the outer edges of the universe to various universes. The space cracks lead to different universes, appearing due to accidents and then repairing themselves instantly. Only in rare cases would substances from the universe be brought into the superdimensional channel, and the turbulent flow was the time-space turbulence. All substances sucked into it would be destroyed and vanish without a trace. Chapter 3, Rebirth. Transmigration. Since coming here, his daily experience was drifting aimlessly in the chaos between the currents, not born and not dead, and he survived by a bizarre stroke of luck. Countless times he was almost sucked into the turbulence, but each time he was unexpectedly pulled out by another turbulent current, continuing to drift under the balance of the turbulence's suction. As time passed, he felt changes in his body. His age became younger and younger, his height and body size shrank, and his clothes became increasingly oversized. When his body reached a certain size, he felt his cognitive abilities starting to regress. He felt like his age was reversing, and his brain was undergoing retrogression. In this case, even if he wasn't ground into powder by the turbulence, he might disappear due to the reversal of his body's age, turning back into a fertilized egg. However, luck once again favored him. Just before becoming an embryo, he happened to enter a crack and successfully traversed it intact, emerging from the other end, arriving in a new world, right at the doorstep of this orphanage. At this point, he had regressed into a baby. Most of his clothes and personal items were lost in the space-time channel, leaving only underwear and a signed white iron card giving him the name, Alaric. As Alaric grew up, he began to realize the changes that his experiences in the space-time channel brought to him. These changes made him feel that even though he didn't acquire a system like the protagonists in novels, he could still be considered a chosen one. He discovered that he had the innate ability to learn and grow infinitely. This ability was somewhat similar to Saitama from One Punch Man but different in certain aspects. Any ability, talent, or skill he possessed could infinitely strengthen through continuous learning and training. As long as he trained, his body would become stronger. As long as he learned, he could master new knowledge. By tempering his will, it became more resilient. With diligent thought, intelligence became more developed. This was akin to the absence of limites in all aspects. Even the talent that determined the speed of progress would gradually strengthen with practice. This made him immersed in learning and training for a long time until he noticed that he was too different from others. He then slowed down his learning. He also found that he had marvelous talents for time and space. He could perceive distances without any reference point and judge the passage of time without a clock. These were undoubtedly benefits from his experiences in the space-time channel. In addition, as he aged, he began to notice that he could unconsciously influence and change matter. He could move cups with his mind, make soup spoons disappear, sense time slowing down when concentrating, and occasionally summon items from other worlds. With a mature inner self and self-control, he gradually eliminated accidents caused by unconscious emotional excitement and, through continuous experimentation, learned to consciously use some magic abilities. Now, he could move lightweight objects with his thoughts and instinctively use some abilities related to time and space. For example, he could briefly control the flow of time in his body like Emi Yakiritsugu's innate time control or the bullet time in the Matrix. He could also use summoning spells. They mostly failed, but occasionally, he could summon items from other worlds. Until today, his treasure chest was filled with various strange items from other worlds, including a headband resembling the Leaf Village from Naruto, a katana that looked like something from Bleach, a master ball, a book titled The Lusty Argonian Maid, all in Nord language but with illustrations, an manga by author Kashiwagi Eri. A coin engraved with "I hope my sisters can grow up with me and get married together," the coin that Sylvanas Windrunner threw into the Dalaran fountain, and a ring named Duran's Lost Ring, and so on. Most of what he summoned were non-living objects, with the only exception being a small white cat named Himari, currently lying on the windowsill sunbathing a cat demon from Omamari Himari. When he first summoned her, she was still a baby, and Alaric personally fed her. Now, Himari was 2 years old, perhaps due to being a cat demon, she had become quite intelligent and spiritual. Alaric looked forward to the day when Himari could truly speak and transform into a human. Until today, Alaric felt like he had returned to 1980s or 1990s England. He believed that with knowledge and experiences surpassing the era by 2 or 3 decades, along with his powerful gift, even without a system, he was confident that he could become the world's richest man in the new era of the internet, reaching the pinnacle of life. Until he opened the door and saw the white-bearded old man in front of him. "Hello, Alaric, I am Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts." Chapter 4, Dumbledore. Dumbledore. Meow meow meow. Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? Didn't he get reborn 39 years ago, with a cheat and future knowledge? He was planning to use all these things to get rich, marry a beautiful woman, and reach the pinnacle of life. Now, why the hell was Dumbledore showing up out of nowhere? Sigh. I should have known, isn't this the Wolves' Orphanage, the place where Voldemort spent his childhood? No wonder the name seems familiar. In this instant, countless thoughts crossed Alaric's mind, but in the end, he buried all the doubts in his heart, not revealing any emotions on the surface. "Hello, Mr. Dumbledore, and Mrs. Cole." He stepped aside and gestured, "Please come in and have a seat." "Oh, no need, Alaric." Mrs. Cole smiled and waved her hand. "Mr. Dumbledore wants to have a private chat with you, so I won't disturb you too." With that, she closed the door. Soon, the sound of creaking stairs descending echoed from outside. "Well then, hello child." Dumbledore looked at Alaric kindly, introducing himself. "I am the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." "Hello, Mr. Dumbledore." Alaric calmly greeted, but there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. This excitement was not because of meeting Dumbledore, but due to the thrill of transmigrating into a different world. However, it created a misunderstanding for Dumbledore. "It seems you're not surprised by the term magic. It looks like you've already realized your uniqueness." Dumbledore raised an eyebrow playfully, snapped his fingers, and Alaric's teacup on the desk automatically filled with tea. "Oh. Cool." Seeing this scene, Alaric felt a bit envious. However, he also showed off to Dumbledore. The spoon in the tea tray trembled and flew into the cup with a clink. This surprised Dumbledore. He had never seen a young child possess such powerful magic before mastering it. Typically, wizards at a young age had insufficient magical capacity and lacked control over their magic. Even ordinary wizards found it difficult to perform magic without the help of a wand. Although this trick's application of magic was a bit rough, it was relative to adult wizards. It already proved that Alaric was a genuine magical genius. I thought about it when I discovered the superpower. Alaric pretended to explain. I feel that I'm not the only one with magic or superpowers. But people around me think that magic or superpowers don't exist. I believe there's an organization covering it all up. Perhaps they are like me, and maybe they will come looking for me. You're quite a clever child. So, would you like to join Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and learn more about magic with your peers? Dumbledore asked kindly. Of course, Mr. Dumbledore, I look forward to my future life in the school. Alaric smiled, revealing a childlike eagerness. Despite being a teenager in his previous life, he was now a young boy and was very excited about being in this childhood fantasy world, especially learning about magic, a book and previously unexplored knowledge. What was the internet? Who cared about the world's richest person? Who cared about beautiful women? None of that mattered now. What wealth could compare to the power of magic? What beauty could surpass Hermione, the know-it-all girl, and the charming Fleur Delacour, all these leading and supporting female characters? At last, who could forget Cho Chang, the most underrated girl in the book? Although the magical world had Death Eaters and Voldemort causing trouble, the overall danger level was not that high, especially since the power of the Light Wizards always stood at its peak. The final crisis only arose because Dumbledore himself set up a plan to permanently defeat Voldemort. Moreover, opportunities and dangers coexisted. Alaric's gift was not like a typical system with clear guidance and a planned path. To further develop his abilities, especially time and space abilities, learning magic seemed like the best idea for now. He also hoped to explore various worlds and experience diverse lives in the future. Next, Alaric and Dumbledore chatted for a while. Although he had some knowledge from books and movies, Alaric, like a curious child, asked many questions about the magical world. Dumbledore patiently answered each one. Finally, Dumbledore stood up and said, "It's getting late now, we should head to Diagon Alley. There, we can purchase the necessary items for your enrollment in Hogwarts. Do you have enough pounds?" "Of course, Mr. Dumbledore." Alaric took out his wallet from the drawer, pulled out a stack of pounds, and said, "In fact, I've been submitting articles to children's magazines and earned a decent sum in royalties. I think it should be enough." "That's good." Dumbledore nodded in satisfaction. "Let's get going then. Himari, let's go." Before leaving, Alaric opened his backpack for Himari on the windowsill. The little white cat leaped in skillfully, showing only its head. After bidding farewell to Mrs. Cole and the curious onlookers, the two left Wool's orphanage and, led by Dumbledore, entered a deserted alley. Chapter 5, Diagon Alley. How do we get to Diagon Alley? Alaric was curious. Apparition, it's a convenient spell but makes people uncomfortable. Dumbledore took out his wand. "Hold on to me, child, and be careful not to vomit." Alaric felt a blur before his eyes, and then everything started spinning. However, in the chaos, he saw clear spatial patterns, a narrow space channel barely accommodating two people. He felt like being sucked into a narrow rubber tube and then expelled again. The space he originally occupied exchanged places with another. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in an alley. Perhaps due to his innate talent, Alaric didn't feel anything special. Meow. But, the cat Himari in his backpack meowed, obviously feeling a little uncomfortable. "How do you feel?" Dumbledore looked at Alaric with concern. Wizards experiencing apparition for the first time usually have some adverse reactions. "I feel great." Alaric reassured as he gently patted the cat's head, finally calming her down. I feel like I can do it a few more times. Oh, you're truly born to be a wizard. Wool's orphanage always produces some geniuses, Dumbledore exclaimed. Of course, the next sentence was just a mutter to himself and not meant for others to hear. The two walked forward in a narrow alley and finally stopped in front of an inconspicuous little pub. The Leaky Cauldron, Dumbledore introduced, this is a well-known place. The Leaky Cauldron is enchanted to ensure that ordinary muggles won't notice it when there's no one leading them. It was a small and dirty pub that people passing by didn't even glance at. Their eyes slid from the large bookstore on one side of the street to the record store on the other, as if they couldn't see it at all. Although it was a famous place in the wizarding world, the inside was dim and dilapidated. 9 elderly women sat in the corner, drinking small glasses of sherry, one of them smoking a long pipe. A young man with a tall hat was chatting with the old bartender. The bartender's head was bald as if it were a swollen walnut. When the two entered, the buzzing chatter immediately stopped, and everyone nodded and smiled politely at Dumbledore, who politely reciprocated each greeting. The barkeeper picked up a glass and said, "Professor Dumbledore, are you personally picking up the new student?" "Yes, a new student from the Muggle orphanage," Dumbledore replied. "Is young Harry doing well? He'll be going to Hogwarts this year too." Tom spoke as if bringing up something delightful, and others nearby perked up to listen. "Hagrid will be in charge of escorting Harry," Dumbledore explained, then led Alaric into the courtyard, where there was only a wall made of stacked bricks. "The entrance to Diagon Alley is here. You must remember the way to enter Diagon Alley," Dumbledore reminded, lightly tapping 3 times on a special spot on the brick wall with his wand, saying, "All right, stand back, Alaric." The brick that was touched by the wand shook and began to move. A small hole appeared in the middle, and the opening grew larger. In no time, they were faced with a wide archway wide enough for both to pass through, leading to a winding, cobbled street with no end in sight. Turning around, Dumbledore opened his arms and said to Alaric, "Welcome to Diagon Alley." Following Dumbledore, Alaric stepped into the magical world for the first time. He understood that his life would bid farewell to ordinary. The fame and fortune of ordinary people would no longer be his pursuit. His future would be accompanied by legends. Everything would begin in this little alley. The alley was filled with various strange shops, street vendors standing on the side, and people buying things. Most of them recognized Dumbledore and nodded in greeting. The old man led Alaric through the alley, nodding to others while introducing each shop and what Alaric could buy in them. Finally, they arrived in front of a snowy white building, much taller than the surrounding small shops. "This is Gringotts," Dumbledore introduced. "Gringotts is the wizarding world's bank. Here, you need to exchange Muggle currency for wizarding galleons, sickles, and newts." Next to the shiny bronze door of Gringotts stood a goblin wearing a deep red and gold uniform. They were about a head shorter than Alaric, with a dark and clever face, sharp beard, and long fingers and feet. As they entered, the goblin bowed and greeted them. Then, a second door appeared in front of them, silver, with the following inscription: "Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take, but do not earn, must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there." Chapter 6, The Wand. 2 goblins bowed to them, guiding them into a grand marble hall. About 100 goblins sat on high stools behind a row of long counters. Some were weighing coins on copper scales, others inspecting gemstones with magnifying glasses, while hastily recording transactions in large ledgers. Alaric approached a counter and took out a stack of British pounds, saying, "Hello, I need to exchange pounds for galleons." An elderly goblin approached, taking the pounds. The exchange rate is 5 to 1 for pounds to galleons. Are you sure you want to exchange all 200 pounds into galleons? Yes, Alaric nodded. And also exchange 1 galleon into sickles. 1 galleon equals 17 sickles, the old goblin explained. After a while, a younger goblin handed Alaric a heavy bag. Next, Dumbledore took Alaric shopping. Firstly, you need a wand, he said. And Ollivanders makes the best wands. The shop was small and shabby, with a faded gold sign on the door that read, Ollivanders, makers of fine wands since 382 BC. In the dusty showcase, a single wand lay on a faded purple cushion. Hello, how are you, Ollivander, my old friend? Dumbledore greeted enthusiastically as soon as they entered. A shriveled old man emerged from a corner, warmly embracing Dumbledore. Hello, old friend, he said in a gentle tone of archaic English. How come you have the time to visit me? Oh, just picking up a student from the Muggle world, Wool's orphanage, you know, Dumbledore winked and then introduced, this is him, Alaric, although born to Muggles, he can already proficiently control his magic. Ah. I see. Ollivander approached, staring sharply at Alaric, and pulled out a long tape measure with silver markings from his pocket. Well, Alaric, let me have a look. Which arm do you use for your wand? I use my right hand, Alaric replied. Raise your arm, good. Ollivander began measuring from shoulder to fingertip. Every Ollivander wand contains a core of powerful magical substance, the essence of its being, Alaric. We use unicorn hair, phoenix feather, and dragon heartstring. Each Ollivander wand is unique because no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are exactly alike. Of course, if you use a wand that belongs to another wizard, the effect won't be as good. Ollivander rambled on while moving between shelves, climbing up and down ladders, and letting the tape measure automatically measure Alaric. Although his constant prattling made Alaric somewhat drowsy, he still listened attentively. Despite having some understanding from the original work, he was still curious about everything in the magical world. All right, Ollivander said, the tape measure falling to the ground and rolling into a ball. Alaric, try this one. Made of chestnut and phoenix feather core. 12.5 inches long. Give it a wave. Alaric took the wand, but as soon as he waved it, he sensed trouble. Indeed, the next moment, the tip of the wand emitted a golden red flame, quickly igniting the nearby cabinet in front of him. Alaric almost felt like he was about to summon a live phoenix. Aguamenti. Dumbledore quickly waved his wand, and a gushing stream of water immediately extinguished the flames. It seems this wand isn't suitable for you, Ollivander shook his head, then took out another one. Made of hornbeam and serpent heartstring. 9 inches long. Give it a try. This time, an unexpected event was a cloud of black smoke. The shrouded cabinet and boxes quickly corroded with unsightly holes, taking considerable effort to restore. Next, Ollivander had Alaric test one wand after another. It seemed that the more trials there were, the happier he became. However, accidents occurred again and again. Ollivander and Dumbledore became cautious, ready with wands in hand to prevent sudden flames, frost, or explosions from causing irreversible consequences. Thanks to the dirty windows of Ollivander's small shop, the pedestrians outside didn't notice any of this. Finally, before the wand box submerged Alaric, Ollivander stopped this unproductive experiment. Oh, what a picky customer indeed, he sighed. Is that orphanage under some spell? This child's magic is even stronger than that guy. Mr. Ollivander, what are you talking about? I don't understand, Alaric said, knowing that guy referred to Voldemort, but at this moment, he still pretended to be ignorant. But Ollivander dryly changed the subject. No, nothing. You'll know it later. Let's get back to the topic of wands. This is the wand I think is most suitable for you, he stumbled, pulling out a delicate purple wand from a large box and handing it to Alaric. Chapter 7, Designing Uniforms. Guys, after looking at voting in previous chapter, I have decided to go with name Alaric. Ollivander began introducing this wand. The materials include a tail feather from a particularly ancient phoenix bird and the core of a 100-year-old elder tree. It is 12 inches long, flexible, and elastic. It's one of my proudest works in my lifetime, and I can't find such precious materials again. I can't make a more powerful wand than this. I just hope this wand won't have any more accidents. Alaric, exhausted by the frequent surprises, had no energy to consider whether the wand was powerful. He just wanted to end these experiments quickly. However, he still cautiously took the wand. At the moment he took the wand, all the wands in the small shop trembled. A strange sensation transferred from the wand to his hand, a smooth and submissive feeling, as if he could effortlessly perform magic. Alaric waved the wand gently, and this time, there were no surprises. The tip of the wand sparkled with a brilliant silver light, and then all the wand tremors ceased. "Excellent, truly excellent!" Ollivander exclaimed loudly. "To witness my life's greatest work find its true owner in my lifetime is truly an honor." He then turned to Alaric and reminded, "A wand with a phoenix feather core is powerful and extremely picky about their owners, especially when it comes from a phoenix king. An elder wand is even more challenging to control and demands the highest talent from the user. Wizards who can use an elder wand are truly destined for greatness. As the owner of such a wand, you are destined to have a great future." When he said the last sentence, he looked at Dumbledore. Dumbledore smiled slightly. "Child, I'm glad you have this wand. I'm starting to look forward to your performance at Hogwarts." Alaric put away the wand satisfactorily and asked, "So, how much for this wand?" No need for money." Ollivander looked at the wand reluctantly and refused. "To see my life's greatest work meet its true owner, I am already very satisfied. I hope you can use it well." Watching Dumbledore and Alaric leave, Ollivander muttered to himself, "Another one from Wool's orphanage, and such a genius again. No, even more incredible than that person. I hope he won't follow in that person's footsteps, otherwise, the magical world will. Next, we need to get you a set of Hogwarts uniforms." After leaving the wand shop, Dumbledore said, "Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions, we usually go there." Madame Malkin was a short and chubby witch with a friendly smile, dressed in purple. "Are you buying Hogwarts school uniforms, dear?" Before Alaric could speak, she said, "Oh, hello, Professor Dumbledore, are you here to personally pick up a student?" "Sorry, I didn't notice you just until now." The two greeted each other with smiles. Alaric noticed another young man coming out from the back, slightly shorter than him thanks to his continuously growing body. He was taller than most peers. He was wearing a dull and old-fashioned black robe, which Alaric found extremely ugly. "Excuse me, is that the Hogwarts uniform?" He pointed helplessly at the young man. "Oh, yes, dear." Madame Malkin led Alaric to a high stool. "But if you're not satisfied, you can ask for some lace or something." "Oh, and can you stand on this stool? I need to measure your size." Alaric was still dissatisfied with this old-fashioned robe. He made an unexpected request, "Can I design my own robe and then customize it here?" "Design your own robe?" Madame Malkin's voice immediately rose 8 degrees. "No one has ever made such a request here. We are professionals. But if you insist, it's not impossible." 5. The last sentence was much quieter. Apparently, Alaric's request hurt her feelings, and she felt her professionalism was being underestimated. So, Alaric skillfully drew a sketch on paper. It was the uniform of the Mages Association students from the Type Moon world, slightly shorter than the Hogwarts robe, more stylish in design, and seemed to be a product of combining Muggle world design styles. In addition, he drew matching shirts, vests, trousers, and so on. Dumbledore and Madame Malkin stood behind Alaric, curious to see what he could draw. As Alaric's skillful strokes gradually shaped the clothing, the two began to take a serious look. "I must say, your new student is indeed a genius," Madame Malkin exclaimed to Dumbledore. "This is not something an ordinary child can design. If he becomes a fashion designer, he should be able to make a lot of money, a big profit in galleons." Dumbledore nodded empathetically. Since meeting Alaric today, the surprises he brought had not stopped. Finally, after finishing the drawing, Alaric stopped, and Madame Malkin immediately took the drawing and carefully examined it. Chapter 8, Shopping and Departure. "You're amazing, my dear. I've never seen such a beautiful design." After carefully examining each sketch, Madame Malkin exclaimed. "Oh, these are all Muggle style." Alaric modestly shook his head. "So, can I order such a set of uniforms?" "Of course, I can't wait to see what the finished product looks like." Madame Malkin looked a bit excited. Then, she hesitated and asked Alaric, if you allow me to make uniforms of the same style for others, then during your 7 years at Hogwarts, I will custom make a well-fitting set of uniforms for you every year with the best materials. What do you think?" Madame Malkin looked at Alaric expectantly, and Alaric thought it wasn't a bad deal for him, so he readily agreed. After that, they went to Flourish and Blott's bookstore to buy textbooks. Alaric not only bought a complete set of first-year textbooks but also purchased all the textbooks for Charms and Transfiguration up to 7th grade. In addition, the curious Alaric also bought a book titled Introduction to Ancient Magic and Rune Scripts and Hogwarts, a History. "Although you are still young, I am glad there is someone interested in ancient magical scripts," Dumbledore commented when he saw Alaric's choices. "Last semester, only 2 students chose to study ancient magic and runes, which is too few. I'm sure Professor Babbling will like you." He added later, "However, ancient runic scripts of magic are a bit challenging, so I hope you are mentally prepared." "I just want to study how magic came to be." Alaric picked up Introduction to Ancient Magical Scripts and flipped to the title page. This book says that modern spells are simplified versions of ancient magical and runic scripts, and the creation of magical items is also related to ancient magical scripts. "I think by studying these scripts, I can find out where the power of magic comes from. I must say, you will definitely end up in Ravenclaw in the future." Dumbledore looked at him with a pleased expression. After inquiring about the significance of each house, Alaric commented, "A wizard's power comes from knowledge, so wizards who pursue knowledge can be considered true wizards. In this regard, Ravenclaw is indeed more in line with my preferences." After paying, Alaric was faced with a pile of thick books. It was impossible for his small backpack to hold so many books. Helpless, Alaric could only look at Dumbledore with pleading eyes. "You can use the shrinking charm to shrink these books and then put them in your backpack." Dumbledore took out his wand and lightly tapped the book pile. Reductio. These books immediately shrank several times until each book was the size of a fingernail. Himari, who saw this scene, curiously approached and stared at these miniature books. "If you want them to return to their original size, the spell is engorgo," Dumbledore added. Alaric, interested, took out his new wand and imitated Dumbledore's posture. He pointed at the tiny books and said the spell. Engorgo. The fingernail-sized books expanded until they returned to their original size. Himari, caught off guard, was hit on the nose by one of the enlarged books, and she retreated into the backpack with a startled meow. Alaric comforted her by patting her head. "Be careful, little one." Then, he tried to cast another spell on the books. Reductio. Immediately, the books shrank back to the size of a fingernail. Dumbledore, watching on the side, was amazed. Alaric had only seen him cast the shrinking charm once, but he could immediately learn it and successfully cast it perfectly the first time. Moreover, he could generalize from it and successfully cast the engorgement charm. Such talent and learning ability were unprecedented. Although you have heard it several times today, I still have to say, you are indeed a genius. He praised. Alaric put all the shrunken books into his backpack, and after reminding him not to play with the books, he followed Dumbledore to purchase other items. In the cauldron store, Alaric bought a large cauldron made of tin, which could be folded and automatically stirred. He also bought a set of glass and crystal potion bottles, a telescope, and a measuring scale. In the magical pet store, he refused to buy an owl and decided to find a way to summon a magical creature for delivering letters. However, he did buy some expensive cat food for him. He believed that wizard cat food might be more suitable for a cat demon than muggle cat food, hoping that this would help him grow faster, at least awakening her demon powers sooner. This series of expenses left his money pouch, originally plump, completely empty. This made him determined to use his advantage as a reincarnator and the power of magic to make a big profit in the Muggle world during the next summer vacation. Not being able to buy the best cauldron and experimental equipment made him feel ashamed about his identity as a reincarnator. In Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor, Dumbledore treated Alaric to an ice cream, while he himself bought a cockroach cluster, which made Alaric feel nauseous. Finally, using the apparition, Dumbledore sent Alaric back near the orphanage. Before leaving, Dumbledore said to him, "Alaric, you are a true genius and a kind-hearted good child. I hope you use the power of magic wisely. Remember, what defines a person is not their power but how they decide to use that power." After saying that, he playfully winked and disappeared in front of Alaric. Chapter 9, King's Cross Station. After returning from Diagon Alley, Alaric locked himself in his room and began to study the magic of this world. Through experiments and research, he roughly understood the principles of magic in this world. It was a kind of spell that used magic to influence the rules. The generation of magic comes from living beings themselves, so only wizards and magical creatures with magic can cast spells. Using magic in this world requires strong will, proper pronunciation, and gestures. The strong will determines the target and effect of the magic, while pronunciation and gestures are essential catalysts. Through these, magic can directly achieve results by influencing the rules. Compared to directly using magic to forcefully impact the reality of the world, magic in this world is like completing tasks directly through a console in an RPG game. It is not only more effective but also allows for spells like the disillusionment charm, the levitation charm, and others that completely violate the basic rules of energy conservation and entropy increase. As for wands, it is well known that magical creatures in this world possess stronger magic than wizards. Wands are made from materials on these magical creatures and some special woods, serving as organizers and converters of magic. When a wizard becomes familiar enough with a spell and is proficient in casting it, they can omit the incantation and wand movements, casting spells silently, with their bare hands, a wandless magic. This is known as nonverbal and wandless casting, making the casting process faster and less predictable. However, due to the lower catalytic effect of silent casting and the lower efficiency of handling and converting magic without a wand, the spell's effect is much weaker and less efficient. With Alaric's talent, he quickly learned relatively simple and commonly used magic such as the wand lighting charm, levitation charm, and disillusionment charm, but he couldn't learn more complex spells in his room. On the one hand, knowledge like spell casting and potion making requires suitable facilities and materials, and on the other hand, more complex spells are not only prone to irreparable accidents but may also attract the attention of Mrs. Cole and his other friends in the orphanage. Unable to quell his curiosity about magic, Alaric could only endure it and look forward to the day when school started. The wait was always long, but finally, the time came for September 1st. Alaric arrived at King's Cross Station at 9 o'clock, hoping to enter the train early and have the freedom to choose a compartment without having to stay with people he wasn't interested in. Except for the main characters, only George and Fred Weasley, Cedric Diggory, and attractive girls could catch his attention at Hogwarts. At this time, the crowd at the train station was not small. There were quite a lot of people coming and going at the train station. Standing between platforms 9 and 10, Alaric carefully looked around, hoping to find an opportunity to enter platform 9 3/4 without anyone noticing. Soon, several wizards in strange robes walked in front of him, foolishly bumping into the wall with a silly expression on their faces, and then one by one, they disappeared. Alaric gritted his teeth, suppressing the desire to complain about their lack of manners, and followed these people into the wall leading to platform 9 3/4. In the blink of an eye, he felt like he had passed through a door, and then the scenery changed dramatically. In front of him was an old-fashioned red steam locomotive with a sign reading Hogwarts Express. With Alaric's talent, he could clearly feel that he was in a special space, a space that coincided with the original location of King's Cross Station. "It's really unscientific, reaching such a level with magic," he exclaimed, following the crowd onto the train. At this time, there were not many people in the train compartments, but Alaric still sat in a slightly later compartment with an empty space. He noticed that the older wizards tended to sit towards the front, while the new students were concentrated in the last few compartments. After putting away his luggage, Alaric opened his backpack, released Himari, who had been confined inside for a long time, and then took out a book, Hogwarts, a school history, to start reading. Perhaps same-age young wizards would be bored with this kind of reading material, but for him, it was a decent pastime. Himari meowed, rubbing against Alaric's legs, showing signs of wanting to play with her master. However, Alaric was enjoying himself at the moment. He casually took out a fragrant grilled fish jerky from his bag, gave it to Himari, and then casually petted her head. That should be enough to pass the time for her. Himari had no choice but to hold the dried fish in her mouth and walk out of the compartment to roam around. Alaric was quite at ease about this. After all, Himari was a cat demon, although still young, her intelligence was enough to take care of herself. After a while, she ran back to the compartment in a hurry and pounced into Alaric's arms, as if someone was chasing her. No, someone was indeed chasing her. It was a girl who looked about the same age as Alaric, with thick brown hair and a pair of large front teeth. She was already wearing the Hogwarts uniform, and Alaric immediately recognized her because she looked very similar to Emma Watson. Hermione Granger, the female protagonist of the Harry Potter series, the clever know-it-all girl, who consistently held the top spot in her grade. However, J.K. Rowling arranged for her to end up with Ron, which was quite regrettable. Chapter 10, Hermione and Cho Chang. The moment he saw her, Alaric's first thought wasn't about his long-imagined strategy of making friends with main characters. Instead, he wondered how and why the story of this Harry Potter world was written into a novel and then adapted into a movie in his original world. He pondered why the movie's female lead resembled the real Hermione Granger of this world to such a great extent but wasn't an exact match. He didn't believe that the Harry Potter world was created because of the existence of the Harry Potter series of novels and movies. On the contrary, he was more inclined to believe that the Harry Potter world influenced his world, leading to the creation of these works. Currently, he couldn't prove this point, but he believed that, with his learning and research on magic, combined with his innate talent for time and space abilities, he would undoubtedly find a way to travel between these different worlds. He felt that with each journey through different dimensions, he would uncover the truth. Coming back to reality, Alaric began to assess the girl standing in front of him who was very famous back in his home world. She was an arrogant girl, like a swan with a stretched neck. In terms of appearance, she was still very cute, a beauty in the making. "Is this cat yours?" she asked, without any pleasantries or self-introduction. "Can I touch it?" Meow Himari whimpered, retreating into Alaric's backpack, only revealing a pair of bright eyes observing from the shadows. "Of course not," You scared him? Alaric raised an eyebrow, unable to fathom what the girl had done to frighten him to this extent. Him? Why did you give your cat such a name? Is it a magical language? Hermione asked curiously, seemingly completely diverted. No, it's Japanese, meaning him. Alaric explained. Oh, you're Japanese. Hermione nodded as if understanding. Not really. Then, why did you give your cat a Japanese name? Because I like it? Hermione's consecutive questions left Alaric somewhat bemused. He hadn't expected her curiosity to reach such levels. Fortunately, the girl stopped and shifted to another topic. I'm Hermione Granger, she introduced herself. I come from a Muggle family, and no one in my family understands magic. So when I received the acceptance letter, I was extremely surprised but also very happy because, from what I know, this is the most excellent wizarding school. But still I've memorized all the textbooks, so I can catch up with all of you. So, what's your name? She spoke very fast, finishing a long paragraph of self-introduction in one breath like a rapid-firing machine gun. She also took the opportunity to show off her learning abilities. What a girl! Alaric sighed inwardly and then introduced himself. I'm Alaric. I come from a Muggle orphanage, so I'm not sure if I have wizarding blood. Oh, and by the way, do you want to sit here? Alaric invited. This invitation was not only out of curiosity but also because he wanted to test whether the so-called plot could be changed, and this experiment started with Hermione. He planned to influence Hermione to join Ravenclaw instead of Gryffindor. This would undoubtedly have a massive impact on the plot, and the future might change drastically. Additionally, he genuinely believed that Hermione's intelligence and eagerness to learn were more suitable for Ravenclaw, hoping that close proximity with one of the main leads would influence some of the choices was also one of his hidden intentions. Hearing that Alaric came from a Muggle world, Hermione immediately felt that their relationship had become much closer. She gladly accepted the invitation, sitting opposite Alaric. And they started talking about the magical world that had suddenly appeared in their lives, changing it completely. Obviously, having read through the original Harry Potter books, Alaric's insights and knowledge about this world far surpassed Hermione's. Moreover, with his extraordinary learning abilities, the young girl soon realized that maintaining her pride in this aspect was not easy. I have met my match. My rival. Hermione thought to herself, but at the same time, she acknowledged that Alaric was indeed an outstanding peer who excelled in studies and had great academic achievements. At this moment, there was another knock on the compartment door. Alaric opened the door, and outside stood two girls a bit older than Hermione. One had freckles with brown hair, and the other was a black-haired Asian girl. The latter seemed to be dragged along reluctantly, both holding luggage in their hands. Hello, my name is Marietta, the brown-haired girl introduced herself. This is my good friend Cho Chang. We both saw you outside and noticed you were new here, also there was still some free space in your compartment, so we thought we'd come and get acquainted. Hello, the black-haired girl nodded towards Alaric. Alaric introduced himself to Marietta and Hermione, then turned to Cho Chang and said, Hello, Cho Chang, I'm Alaric. Seeing him, Cho Chang opened her mouth in surprise. Hello. I didn't think you were new here, just because how calm you were while boarding the train. Ah, it wasn't too challenging, we simply went in the direction everyone else was heading, Alaric said with a smile.